Jess, the voice and face of the real CamFam on Twitch.
And I'm Justin, the off-screen voice you hear of the real CamFam. And this is the CamFam Campaign, where we talk about things all geeky, nerdy, whatever have you. And this is episode 3. And this week we're talking about cartoons.
Let me stop you there. We're not going to talk only about cartoons. We're actually going to talk about the things that have helped us bond that we used to complain were gender specific.
So cartoons we're going to talk about this week.
Not just cartoons.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to start with cartoons.
We will start with cartoons.
So why were cartoons gender specific?
When I was growing up, all I really had to watch was the basic local TV.
Mhm.
Like, that was it. I did the rabbit ears and everything, the static on the side of the TV. Only like 3 channels had to get up to move.
UHF or VHF. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I only had like Captain Planet and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on that basic TV, because if you wanted anything that was more aimed towards girls, you had to pay premium prices.
Yeah.
My family at the time, just my parents, didn't have the money to pay for the premium prices.
Naturally, but that actually brings us to that next part without going into all the background of like Disney Channel and all that. A lot of those early girls shows, that's where you found them.
Yeah.
Was like Disney Channel. Once Disney came out, so you had to have premium cable to start watching that, which I'm not certain all the prices, but I know at one time people complaining about it was like $10 just for that channel, which late 80s, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was.
So for a channel that your kid's probably going to watch 4 hours a week, because otherwise they're better be outside.
Yeah, exactly.
So what else then? So that brought us together over our shared love of things like that. Now, we both loved Thundercats, He-Man. I loved Silverhawks, a few of these more boy shows. But those didn't bring us as close together as things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because that came up more recently when Magic the Gathering, another shared thing we love that's brought us even closer together, when they came out with their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
We were both excited
but seeing how excited you were made me so happy. Like, I felt you were more excited than even I was, and I was the boy who grew up with it and had the reputation of, he just wants to be a Ninja Turtle when he gets older.
Yeah.
And yet, you were so excited. You're like, I can't wait to see what. You were looking up the cards ahead of time. I can't wait to get Michelangelo and a Dante. And it was so cool to see that. So then, and now we've played some that are kind of orchestrated more towards girls, because guess what? I get excited about some of the Lorewyn stuff in it, which maybe not its own cartoon, but within the world of magic, that's your fairies and your merfolk.
And we were always told, unicorns, fairies.
All that's girly.
Girly.
I'm sorry, an immortal creature that if you drink their blood, you become immortal. Kind of badass. Not super girly. So, but there were other things, as we started diving into this and talking. You grew up in a world that at least the marketing made you feel was a boy's world. Mm-hmm. So you were either a boy or you had to be a tomboy.
Yep.
Your choices were limited.
That kind of lent that to me was the fact that I was handed down a lot of toys.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't handed down a whole bunch of female toys. Like, my aunts didn't hang on to a lot of their toys. So I got my uncles and my father's.
When they weren't playing with fireworks?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones they didn't blow up.
Okay, gotcha.
No, they handed down their Tonka trucks, and those were the only things I had to play with outside.
Oh, no.
And they were my favorite things in the world.
Yes.
They were the big, I think my dump truck was the big one.
It was
one. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they're all yellow.
Rusted.
They were all yellow and rusted. Yep.
But it was metal,
mm-hmm.
not the plastic ones you have today.
They were covered with yellow paint and tetanus, for sure.
Yep.
They were.
And we could use it was so big that I could fit into it to slide down the hill.
Down hills, absolutely.
Exactly.
Just yesterday, that actually brings up a hilarious interaction we had yesterday with our own offspring, when she pointed out one of the statements she didn't understand is a sandbox game.
Oh, right.
Why they are called sandbox games. And we all joke that kids these days aren't going to know about hanging up a phone or know about a broken record and all of these idioms we have. But she questioned why a sandbox game is called. She's like, it's not like you build in a sandbox. And we're like, whoa, excuse me? Like, you built whole cities. You use these Tonka trucks to move earth and build entire cities.
Yep.
like that's what they were for. But knowing, and she had a sandbox. We didn't rob her of that. She had it. She just never played in it to such a degree that she understood that you're in a sandbox with sand, and your idea is you're supposed to manipulate that sand to build your world.
Exactly.
Which is much like a sandbox game. So, she kind of got robbed of that, but nonetheless, that plays right into them Tonka trucks.
Yeah.
But Tonka trucks those were not for girls.
No, they
So
were not.
they were not. You had maybe later on, Barbie Dream House, and maybe you'd get Malibu Barbie's convertible like in later.
I
See?
did have a convertible.
Did
but
you
I don't
run it
know
over
if
with your Tonka trucks?
I wish I did, but I wasn't allowed out of the house.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. It would have gotten dirt, then it would have been broken. Not like a Tonka
I
truck
would've
where
broken
it worked better when it was dirty. So,
Yep.
but so what other toys then? Because that's
I
important.
had
You started with the Tonka Legos, but
And-
were they all pink and hot pink and
No.
light pink? No.
Nope. Because they weren't Mega Blocks.
Yeah.
They weren't huge, but they were like an inch big.
Mhm.
But they had the Lego stamp in them, and
Yeah.
I cannot find them to like show you what they are or to replace them. But they were like the smallest ones were an inch by an inch.
Okay.
Square.
Yeah.
And then the biggest ones, and even an inch high.
Yeah.
So they're definitely not Mega Blocks because Mega Blocks are much
you
bigger.
had your Mega Blocks, Duplos, and Legos.
And they weren't Duplos either.
But even Legos did have different sizes for a while until they started making it pretty much mandatory that they all had to interlock.
Exactly. So I had those, and I would build cities with those.
Yeah.
And I had one that had the wheels on it, so it could be like a car, and I would build this mega car as big as I possibly could, and I would drive it all over the place. I even was gifted race car tracks, and the kind that actually you'd hold the button and it would race around the track.
You see that just thin little metal wire running through the track. Yeah, absolutely.
I loved that thing, and I could spend days playing with both the Legos and the track. And I think a couple of times I even built a city around the track.
I've done that. I used my Legos to build overpasses or thin walls to try to crash it through, things like that. I absolutely did that because I think one thing that if you weren't missing this, then you were playing like a boy. Yeah. And that was everything we used our toys for, at least in my experience, or even when I would play with my cohorts, was to destroy.
Yeah.
Everything was to destroy. So you build your Lego city because eventually something's going to destroy your Lego city.
Yeah.
Whether it's your action figures, your cars, your something,
Exactly.
Hopefully not your firecrackers and stuff. But I didn't get those till I was like 14. So.
Well, I mean, I had a generic dollhouse.
Okay.
Didn't like it. I had a few girl toys that were eventually gotten for me, but they were really generic. They weren't like a name brand like Barbie was at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did have Barbies. Most of them, those were ones that my aunt held on to.
Sure.
But I didn't really care about them. And if I did, they were still treated like an action figure.
Well, that's what they are. And if you think about with boys, when they first got their G.I. Joes, now this is prior to me, we're not trying to age ourselves up that much, but all my childhood being told by all the older uncles and all that about their G.I. Joes, they were Ken dolls in fatigues. We've seen them online, we've seen them in the museums. We've gone and seen, we're not trying to purport to be experts on the subject, but we've gone to many, at least half a dozen different toy museums, historical museums, the Smithsonian, and see toys from early America. And they're either completely genderless or for boys. Exactly. There were very few girls' toys.
Like, I think when I did play with dress up with my dolls, is I always go for the less feminine of the clothes.
Okay.
And that was just me. I mean, because
then they could probably go out and do more active stuff if they're not in girly clothes.
If I did play with them, and it was mostly, if I did play with them, it was with my cousins.
And here's the thing.
My cousins are, she just turned 30 something, so she's at least 10 years younger than me.
Okay.
My older cousin.
As you know, art imitates life.
Yeah.
And you playing with dolls, if you are intending your doll to get rough, violent, dirty, anything like that, you're going to dress her less feminine. I think it's just part of it, because you're going to dress less feminine if you're going to go outside and get dirty. You're not going to wear your nice dress.
And I think my Sunday best.
Yeah, you're not going to wear that Sunday best if you're going out to get dirty.
Sunday best. I
No,
couldn't
not
wear
at
those
all.
dresses just whenever
No,
I wanted.
you got home, you changed. If
Yep.
you went to church, you came home, you got changed.
Yep.
I did not have so much the same upbringing, but it was very similar when I had to wear nice clothes to school.
Yep.
You go to school picture day or whatever it was, you come home, you got changed,
Exactly.
then you go outside. But that being said, so we all know it's not like it's lost on us that was marketing.
Yep.
It was marketing. You grew up, all the commercials on TV, the Super Soakers, the Legos.
That was wanted
all
these Super Soakers
boys.
so bad.
And there's many reasons I'm sure there's tons of studies out there, and I'm sure when you were going to school for marketing, some of these topics came up. But I'm sure you could do case studies to show that boys are stupider and therefore fall for the marketing much better. And I'm just saying, like, that's why they didn't allot market to girls, because why? They're either going to buy it or they're not, or they know that the boys stuff is cooler. They're going to play with it anyway. Why would a Super Soaker be more boys? But did you ever see girls running around on the TV with that Super Soaker cannon? No. Every now and then you see one girl with it, and they'd be the little sister, and then the brother's got the cannon and blasts her with it.
Yeah.
Because yes, they say sex sells, but you know what else sells to boys? Violence.
Yeah.
And being cool.
Yeah.
So, and we made those things the same.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were brought up with shared things like, say, Captain Planet. You mentioned that. That probably, between that and Fern Gully, I think it gave a lot of us a complex about the environment and climate.
Yeah.
I'm not, we're not going to sit here and argue over climate change, all of that. What we're going to say is it made a lot of us hyper aware of pollution, of clearing the rainforest, of this idea that once you cut down a tree, you pretty much doomed the earth. And yet then now it pulls on our heartstrings when we drive around and even see trees being cut, even for legitimate purposes. We're like, oh man, come on. Because that was just our conditioning growing up.
Exactly.
Indeed. So what other things we know based on it? If you go back and watch episode 1, we know video games are one of the first things that really latched us
bonded us together. Yeah.
But then from that, we've grown into all these other things, whether it was your love of cars, whether it was fairs. You went to fairs and horses and all this stuff. And you may go, why is this gendered? But when we were talking about this topic in preparation, it had come up. I'd never once in all of my childhood going to fairs, and I was very deeply, intimately involved with these, did I see boys doing the horse, tricks and in the horse ring. That was the girls. Yeah. But your experience on horse farms was different. You were made to feel like that was a place for boys. Maybe not the riding, but working there.
Okay, so I grew up. My father lived on a horse farm when I was a teenager. He boarded there and basically he worked and helped there on the farm.
Sure.
And so I got the opportunity to learn how to ride because of that experience.
Yeah.
Whenever I would go there was never boys except for the owner's stepson.
Sure.
The only men that were really ever there was him, my father, the owner's husband, and maybe fathers here and there. No boys came to work on the horse farm. It was all
they were probably off doing sports or
girls.
Playing with Legos or talking trucks.
So my dad had that farm, worked and lived on that farm, and then down the street was another horse farm that my cousin ran. And I preference this, actually, it was my cousin's wife that ran. My cousin had a job. I don't know what he did. I think he was a contractor or something. Okay. Anyways, so both farms, I would go to both farms to visit either of them. No boys whatsoever. Only girls. Only girls were into gymkhana up there. Only girls were into dressage.
Yeah.
And gymkhana is barrel racing, and dressage is basically teaching your horse how to fancy dance.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's basically horse gymnastics.
Yeah.
Is really what it is. But so our experiences there match.
Yeah.
But you were made to feel that the idea of working at a horse farm was a boy's job.
Because it was manual labor that we had to do. We had to clean stalls, kind of basically hold the horses down to not hold them down, but like hold their reins down to do shoeing or any of that.
Sure.
When I went to shows, there was only girls.
Yeah.
There was never boys. when I think it was senior year or maybe even my junior year, I actually went to work on a horse farm that was close to my house instead of going to my dad's all the time because I think that was
that's the same one that I had applied for.
Yeah.
I wanted to work there.
And only you come to find out your neighbor worked there with me, and he was a few years older than me. But I learned he was only there for doing, I think, fixing fences and stuff like that.
Very grunt
So
work.
he did the grunt work while I'm still stuck there cleaning stalls, lunging horses, washing the horses and stuff like that. So they didn't have room for you because you couldn't. They didn't need another handy.
Yeah, no, I get that. They had been looking for somebody, so apparently you stole the job from me.
You weren't gonna be. You weren't gonna be in the horse's stalls.
Probably not.
And I never understood why there was that kind of inequality.
Dynamic. Yeah.
Because you could have shoveled shit just as much as I could.
And you could have held up a fence post just as easily.
Exactly.
It's not like you were lifting trucks or anything like that.
Exactly.
You know, but so our experiences there kind of matched in that way. But
you worked at a tire shop.
I did. And yet you grew up around cars.
Exactly.
And I grew up in a tire shop. Like, it was my childhood was hanging out inside an automotive shop, sorting oil filters, throwing tires, getting steel belted radials, slicing up my arm, all of it.
So, but you love horses, and you would have loved to have been in my shoes.
Yeah, and I'm not a car guy.
And I am.
And you are a car person. I'm not. And now you would rather not deal with horses whatsoever, due to your own personal reasons. But nonetheless, you would rather not deal with a horse, and I'd rather not deal with a car. And I learned how to ride a horse long before you ever worked at a horse farm.
Exactly.
So it's really funny that I had learned that. It was so natural to me because I grew up in a house with an auto tech. I won't say mechanic, he kicked my butt, but an auto tech, and then a mom who is a very, almost a veterinarian. She's a veterinarian technician, but worked very closely with veterinarians all her life. So very deeply in the animal husbandry world.
Yeah.
And I learned how to ride a horse 6 years before I learned how to ride a bike. So that's why it's funny that
I grew up with men in my family who knew exactly how to analyze and zero in on car problems. My grandfather restored a damaged 1952 Dodge Canopy Express into a beautiful work of art.
So naturally, you'd love being surrounded by this.
Yeah.
These were shiny, they were pretty, they sounded beautiful. You got to go to cool places where chances are probably doted on because you're the girl, you're there. So they're like, oh, wow, this is so cool. You bring a little girl to this. We need to make sure she enjoys herself. Exactly. And therefore, you're babied and coddled just like I would if I went to a horse show. I probably would have been like, oh, there's a boy here. Let's treat them.
About 90% of the time, I was the oldest for 9 years. I was the only grandchild in my family. So, and the only, obviously, as being the only grandchild, was a female. So I was brought along to a lot of those.
Yeah, they didn't change their plans because of you.
Exactly.
You went along with them.
So it was one of those things I was forced into liking cars, or at least you were led. You were thinking. A lot of people would think I was forced into loving cars, but I still go to car shows today. And our daughter even now loves them, and I never forced her on. I was just like, hey, here's a car. Let me know what you think. She's like, I love that. Yeah. So we started taking her to car shows.
Yeah. She loved it. She got to sit in that, was it Pagani that one time when we were at, was it the Comic-Con? Or was it that car show? Was it actually the car show where they had that one, like, $2 million car sitting there?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was cool. She loved seeing that one. But, so, your whole childhood sounds like one long string of, oh my God, there's a girl on Ven.
Yes.
So why don't you bring us to that point?
So, as I mentioned in the first episode, there wasn't a lot of talk about girls playing video games. I had my
especially online.
Yeah, I had my best friend who's on Twitch with Empress Magdalena. She and I always talked about video games. When I left that area where she lived, I came to high school, none of my friends talked about video games. None of my male friends, none of my boyfriends, none of my female friends. We just didn't talk about video games. So video games in the early late 90s was just not mentioned.
Sure.
So I didn't know that there was a disconnect between girls and boys playing video games.
And as an aside, one thing that I find funny with what you just said is, of the ones that we know because we've kept contact with or remained friends or cordial with, you don't really have any ex-boyfriends that were gamers.
Yeah.
Like, because we've kept in touch with many that you would at one time or another, long
Talked
before,
about,
that we went to high school with or whatever.
Yeah.
And, where we have one or two that are casual, might play a game here and there.
Yeah.
None of them are gamers.
Nope.
Not a one. So that just shows you also you would have felt alienated around them.
Yeah.
Because you were, and you weren't allowed to be. So,
exactly.
What else though? Like, so, and then years later, we're playing WoW, and you are the girl on Vent. This is your one time that you get to be the gamer girl.
So when we started WoW, as we said last week, we started with Pain, and when I'm talking that there was no sisters or anything in Pain with us. I was the only girl in Pain.
Yep.
And we didn't really do voice chat then.
No, only the raiders did, and we weren't raiders.
Yeah. So when we moved over to their parent guild, Death Warriors, there was a couple of women. There were the moms, the aunts, and like that. And
Kira and Shadow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bulgarak's wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
His real life wife also played. So there was that. She was the first gamer girl I ever really met in real life.
Yeah.
She was actually and I was actually shocked, because I was like, wait a minute, I'm not alone.
Yeah. She was a full-time gamer girl. Like that was what she did.
So once we left Death Warriors and created Catastrophe, we started getting females into our guild. We got Andalila, who's Voladir's wife. We got Yara. We got
Penguin
P, precisely. Maya Fly. Icy Blue Eyes. And
man, there's so many we can't even.
Those are their main.
Those are the ones that we confirmed, at least because by voice.
They would come over voice and talk to us.
That we were like, oh wow, okay, they're not just playing a female character, because that does play in. We looked up some stats for folks.
Yeah.
That of all of what was it, 93% of women who play World of Warcraft play a female character.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I would attribute that other 7. I didn't see any statistic on that, but I would attribute that to those who don't want to draw attention to being a girl.
Yeah.
Or they just like me when I make a female character, because aesthetically they like it more, or whatever, the transmogs, or maybe just that class. But 33% of men also play a female main character. So that shows you technically well over 50% of all characters in World of Warcraft should be female.
Yep.
And yet, most of the players are probably male. In fact, it's 36 to 40% of all Blizzard customers are female, but they estimate 15 to 36% of WoW players are female. And I think that range varies so much just because you can know based on self-identification some of that, but when we made our account, it didn't ask us what gender we were.
No, it didn't.
So it doesn't know in that way. So they're either assuming some information or this is just self-volunteering information. Yeah. But even with those stats, there is a stark number of the girly things, if you will, that are purchased by those female players.
When we go back, stepping back 1 second behind that, when the first time I had gotten on voice with a group of for a raid, I was hit with the words, "Oh my God, there's a girl on Vent.
Yep.
Is this really a female?"
Yeah, like they'd never heard it, and that was the first time. I guess it kind of slapped us in the face, and you more than anybody, that like, why am I not supposed to be here?
Exactly.
Kind of, because you had not yet at that point been made to feel that way. Even living in a house with 3 men all playing that game, one apartment, but they were, with our 2 friends living in the same area, helping us get into that game. No one told you couldn't play.
Exactly.
No one made you feel that way. No one made you feel that way
They
for
were
playing Kingdom
thrilled.
Hearts or anything.
They were thrilled.
They were
that I
like, wow,
wanted to
another
play
girl wants to
because
play. This is just another body,
they
another
just
person.
saw me as another person. They
Mhm.
didn't see me as male or
As
female
it
at that first.
should be.
And so it was, to them, I was just another female. I'm not another female. I was another body. I was another character to come help fill in that
Yeah,
gap in
we
the
need 5 for this dungeon.
or-
There you go. Now we got a 5th. It didn't matter whether you were a girl or
And the same
not.
came to Catastrophe. So, and
Didn't
even
care.
when we pulled in any of our other people that were like, hey, you need a 5th, it didn't matter what our roles were.
Did not.
But then later on, there were some people within our guild that assumed roles. Like, assumed because I made a paladin that I was always going to be the healer.
That is true. That does. Well, but you know, if you think about, if you really dig into statistics, there is a lot of statistics to support that most healers were female.
I mean, yes, and when I do create a new character on,
if it's a healer,
a lot
often
our RPGs or MMOs, I will choose
but
healer.
That's more of a dynamic thing. You
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing that if you were playing alone.
Exactly.
You'd be trying to take something tanky or that could kill fast. But because I'm there to go, I'm going to create this tanky, being. You go, okay, well, I'm going to stand back and support you so you could just plow through the stuff because that has worked so well in the past.
That's part of our bonding.
Yeah, it is.
That was always
I know
part of our bonding.
You're always there to be my healer. I'm always there to take the hit in the face for you. That's what I'm there for. But there are so many other things that we have bonded over throughout the years, whether it is wrestling.
Yep.
We like it. Now, we're not big wrestling fans now. We don't watch it all the time. Every now and then we'll catch a pay-per-view or something.
But I was always told, growing up, if I did mention wrestling around, a lot of my schoolmates would kind of give me this cross-eyed look, not because they didn't know what it was, but because here I am, female, like wrestling.
And I gotta feel like, even though when you watch an episode or a show, watch Raw, watch SmackDown, watch TNA, there are many females.
If you go back and watch the audience
through the years. Oh yeah,
on the archives, you can tell the difference.
You can tell the difference.
The growth.
Absolutely. But and you would say it's a lot of children, of course. Of course, why are you going to spend these hundreds of dollars if not to make an experience?
Yeah.
You got a bunch of women. It's still mostly men, but I feel like out in society, if you go and just start telling your friends, hey, I like wrestling, whether you're a guy or a girl, you're going to get some sideways glances sometimes because it's just there's some assumptions made when that gets said.
But I can say with confidence though that best friend I did grow up with, side by side, same age as me, she loved wrestling too.
Sure.
And her and I could sit there and talk about it.
Wrestling.
Her and I could sit there and bond over it.
I'd watch it Saturday mornings after your girly little, Garfield and Friends was on. I'd watch the wrestling with my grandfather, and then I'd go spend the rest of the early afternoon, right after lunch. I'd go outside, and on their 3-tier fence, I'd pretend they are wrestling rings, and I'd be climbing up a bit and doing elbow drops into the dirt because I'm imitating what I saw.
Yeah.
I'm being a boy. I'm acting out.
When you bring back to when it talks about boy activities, because that reminds me, I used to climb trees.
Yeah.
And when I was told later on, why'd you climb trees? That's something so boyish. Why not? I loved it.
What is inherently masculine about a tree?
I don't know.
That's what I want to know. Like,
but I was
Mother Nature.
I don't know who it was, but I was told at one point. But I think one of my ex-boyfriends was like, "Why did you climb trees? That's so boyish." And it's like, I guess we're just liking it to that.
And as humans, we just tend to reach for explanations and labels for everything. So everything's got to be for a boy or a girl. Everything's got to be for good versus evil. Everything's got to be for black versus white. There is no way. We have to label everything.
I saw them there. I wanted to climb them, so I did.
And that's all the reason you should need.
Exactly.
That is all the reason.
I think it was the same with me in mountain biking and me learning the trails.
Absolutely. So I think it's only fitting at that because of this week's topic that we nominate a strong masculine male to be the geek of the week. That should fit in right.
No.
You disagree? No.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
Like clearly it should be a man.
I think it should be a female, and the reason why I think it is because she's stepped into these roles and has accepted it.
She's owned it.
She's owned it.
This geek has owned it.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
We love her. We have since the moment we saw her. We have constantly referred to her as the Queen of the Geeks. In our family, she's the Queen of the Geeks. So go ahead and nominate our Geek of the Week,
Felicia Day.
Felicia Day. You would know her from the Guild, from Supernatural.
She was on the last season of Buffy as one of the Vampire Slayers.
But she was when she was on Supernatural, she won us a lot of people. A lot of people were won over. We were introduced to her in the Guild, the YouTube mini show about World of Warcraft and guilds and life and
being a game girl
and being that gamer girl and those kind of that uphill resistance you get. So that is our Geek of the Week that we have for this. So what else did you want to share with our viewers this week then?
I want to talk more about next week's episode.
Absolutely. So that's why next week we're going to be talking about good versus evil.
And are they justified in being evil?
Or are they evil at all if they're justified?
Or are they justified in being good?
So we're getting philosophical next week. So join us next week on the CamFam Campaign, where we discuss the nature of good versus evil and the rationalization around that within the fantasy sense. So we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.